All right, people. Yes, I'm outside. It is simply too nice to not be outside. We have a Q&A on tap today, and I don't have time to mess around. We have so many questions and so many good questions. I don't want to screw around doing anything else except having a little mate to get myself fired up. Question number 1 from Senor Calabesa Tres. Any insight on stock photography? Yes, but lacking in anything from the current industry. I haven't been around the photo industry for about 10 years. I stopped submitting to the agency that I was with years and years and years ago because the value of stock had been so diminished over the years. As soon as photographers signed royalty-free contracts and eventually microstock contracts, they completely undermined that entire industry. So stock has been devalued to a level that I'm not sure it's ever going to recover from. I'm sure there are exceptions to that rule, and there are probably still good stock agencies out there. I just don't know because I don't do that kind of work anymore. In addition, stock photography was never my favorite kind of work because it was too safe, too standard, too sterile. And so it was always a battle of trying to get stuff in that had a personality. But again, I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule. All right, moving on. Question 2. From Kurt, if you don't fix your negatives properly or for long enough, will they fade or degrade in the future? I have some negatives from about 10 years ago that I recently got out to print, but they looked really transparent. Short answer, Kurt, yes. You have to do a professional archival fix on both your negatives and also your subsequent prints if you want them to be archival. With a print, that typically means 2 fixer baths for a print. It's a long story, I don't want to get too much into details, but yes, you need to do an archival fix, and that tends to be the strength of the fixer, the duration that your film is in the fixer, and how much agitation. All right, Kurt, I'm glad you brought this up. Third question, second from Kurt. What the hell is that round cup with a straw in it that you skip past in your last film? Spill the beans. This is a mate gourd. Mate, if you go anywhere in Argentina, Uruguay, it's what people drink every day, all day. It's fantastic. It's a loose leaf. I don't know what you would call it. Tea-ish. It's bitter. This is called a bombilla, which is the metal straw. This is not the bombilla that I bought in Uruguay with this gourd, thanks to my friend Diego. Not Diego, Martin. Martin took me there, although Diego was also around, hovering. Different places. The original bombilla I have is temporarily misplaced, as my wife likes to say. It's not lost, it's temporarily misplaced. There's a big difference, and that's what mate is. If you've never had it, it's worth investigating. Question number 4, opinions on film emulations, and if you like or use any. I have exactly 2 presets in Lightroom, 1 color, 1 black and white. That's it. Post-production and digital, it's just not something that my heart's into, so I try to keep it as simple as possible. I don't spend a lot of time trying to emulate film because film and digital are different. Digital has its strengths and weaknesses, and there are certain things about it that look fantastic, and the same with film. If I want film look or need film look, I use film. I don't spend time. I've never seen a digital file prepped to look like film that looks like film. And I find it odd that software companies are still trying to emulate 60-year-old emulsions. That seems a bit misguided to me. And this is pandemic hair, by the way. I'm never cutting my hair again. Question number 5. Curious to hear your thoughts on the future of photojournalism and or long-term doc work. I just entered a photojournalism program. Good luck, my son. After a visual art degree, because long story short, I was more interested in stories than others. I feel as though there's far more opportunity for experimentation, multimedia, and collaboration and storytelling than what is being utilized in the industry. What are your thoughts, Paige? I should have said, good luck, my daughter. So, Paige, I'm stoked that you're in a PJ program. I'm stoked that you're in a documentary program. I don't really care what the industry says about photojournalism and documentary work. If you go back to the 1990s, American Photo Magazine was running cover stories titled, Is Photojournalism Dead? It was not dead then, and it's not dead now, and it's not going to be for a long time because, number 1, people like you are still out there wanting to do it. 2, here's where it gets interesting. When I studied photojournalism and got out, my entire career was in the hands of other people, namely editors in New York City. So I had to pick up a landline telephone and make phone calls, and they made decisions about my life and my career. It was completely ridiculous, but that's the way it was. Now, with the tools at your disposal, you can be your own weather system. You can be your own entity. If you look on YouTube, for example, I just saw a clip. David Pakman, P-A-K-M-A-N. He's a YouTuber that's a journalist that has a channel on YouTube that's about news. And I think he's got over a million subscribers, and he has his own news ecosystem. Would I rather watch David Pakman over CNN? Yeah, any day of the week, because I'm not getting the show and the corporate entity that is CNN. The debacle, the celebrity, the whining, all the kind of stuff that makes mainstream news media today, how awful it really is. So you can be your own independent journalist if you consistently make good work and you have the trust of your audience. So don't give up on PJ or documentary work. Question number 6. How did you get new clients for kids photography? Wow, someone dug into my past to come up with that question. So yes, at one point in my life, I was a portrait photographer specializing in photographing children. Now, if you had asked me in photojournalism school if this was something I was ever going to do, I would have said absolutely not. I remember the second I became a children's portrait photographer, my neighbor, who had 2 small girls, came over to my house and said, "Do you photograph children?" And I said, "Absolutely not." And she said, "Great, I'm leaving them here." So she left, and in my living room are 2 small girls waiting for me to do something or say something. And I thought, okay, I better make some pictures. And so I photographed children the way that I would photograph a documentary project. Secondarily, I shot a Hasselblad and Tri-X film. And not a single portrait photographer in my entire area, I don't think in my entire state, maybe even in the western half of the country at the time, was using square format 6x6 black and white to photograph families and kids. They were all shooting digital. So my work immediately looked different, and my work was being created in a way that made me happy as a photographer. I didn't look at the industry and say, I've got to conform, I have to shoot digital, I have to do everything that everybody else is doing. I said, I'm going to do my own thing. And I lived and died by the fact I was doing my own thing. I charged differently, my billing was different, and I told people, I do not want my work on social media. Do not put these photographs on social. And if a client hemmed and hawed or said, I really want social, I just would not do the shoot for them. I told people I was photographing for the wall of their house, a single image that would be good enough to last for them, their children, and their children's children. That's what I was shooting for. So you have to distinguish yourself right away. And it's not just with your photographs, it's with your mentality and your philosophy about what you're doing as a business. Question number 7. I want to start a long-term project, but I'm in a roadblock. I'm not a documentary photographer. For my non-paid work, I seek beautiful scenes or items, mainly in nature, and how to show them in the most simple yet interesting way. How does one determine if that is a good long-term project? What constitutes an attached project? I don't have any grand plans or ideas, but I want to start building a cohesive body of work. Suzanne, it's a great question. And the simple answer is whatever you find interest in is a legitimate project. I could do a project on this table that my wife built by hand and just put some sort of sealer on, but she accidentally put it on when the table was wet and now it's bubbling. That's a whole nother story. But I could do a project on this table if I really wanted to. I could trace back what kind of wood this is and where this particular piece of wood came from, the people who were involved in cutting it, sourcing it, selling it, etc. I could build out from this one table and I've got an entire project. It's whatever you are passionate about. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. If you like nature, how many landscape books have I seen in my life? Tons. So a lot of people are doing projects like that. Go for it. Question number 8. Hello, I would like to thank you for your wonderful videos. You're very welcome. I would like to create photo books that show little trips with my wife and my son as memories. Great idea. Do you have any tips on how to create small books consisting of 10 to 20 pictures? Easy. Go to Blurb, go to Trade Books, 24-page minimum page count, set, done, soft cover, super inexpensive. Use the standard color paper, which is probably the highest quality paper. It's going to look best with illustrated content, combinations of words and pictures. And just start there. You might actually end up paying more for shipping than you will for the actual book, depending on where you live. And I do these books all the time. Every time I do a documentary project, I do a small trade book portfolio from that story. And now I have a big stack of them that I can lay out on a table when someone asks me what my work is like. Next question. I think it's number 9. What's your take on naming photographs? And this came from Conger, 1977-2. What's your take on naming photographs? I never name a photograph unless I'm absolutely forced to. Just like I don't sign them, number them, etc. The only time I would name a photograph is if I was going into the gallery or museum space, and sometimes you have to provide details of an image. Could be a title. In your case, what you're calling a name would be an image title, location it was made, date it was made. You never add tech specs. That's only for the geeky online photo world. No one cares in the gallery collector space what your settings were, what camera you used. It's all nonsense. That's the only time I would do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that when I make the picture in the field, that's the pinnacle of my experience. Everything that comes after for me is a letdown. I don't care about social. I don't care about fame. I don't care about notoriety. I don't care how many people see it. I don't care about sharing it. It's the experience of making it in the field. So naming pictures for me would be for no reason. Moving on, question number 10. How do you recommend using different formats in your work? I saw a video of yours, where it seemed like you were using a 35 rangefinder, true, and then a folding medium format for portraits. Can you talk about this a bit? I can, and I will. Yes, what you're talking about is the film I released a week or so ago called Una pura verdad, A Simple Truth, and I was using a Leica rangefinder, which is pretty standard for me, and I was using a Fuji film 6x6 or 6x7 collapsible folding rangefinder, medium format camera, which was a gem. It was fragile as hell. If you folded it the wrong way, it would break and you were done. But if you knew the trick to folding it, it was amazing, it was sharp, it was small. There's an upside and a downside to using multiple formats. I should have stuck with the Leica and done nothing but 35 black and white. But 35 black and white is not exotic. It's not sexy. It's nothing. It's one of the hardest formats to make interesting in the modern world, at least to other people. The medium format is easy. It's a drug. It is the heroine of photo projects. It's because everything you frame and shoot looks good no matter what it is. So you trick yourself into thinking that you're making progress. You trick yourself into thinking that the work is better than it is. And you do it because you're insecure, that you need to make progress. Your time is limited. You don't have a lot of options. Every single scenario you find yourself in has to be target rich. You have to walk away with work. So you give yourself these gimmicks of using 4x5 or 810 or 6.9 or 6.7 or 6x6. Had I consolidated on that one format and done the entire project with a 6x6, that'd be one thing. But I didn't, I mixed. And again, it's not like I'm trying to put this work out in front of the world and tell you how great I am. I'm doing it for personal reasons. And so ultimately it doesn't matter, and I enjoy using the both of them. All right, moving forward. Again, good questions, really good questions. Do you look for shots or wait for them to come to you in your creative work? I do both. Also, I'm curious if you compose in black and white or convert in the post. I always shoot in color, convert to black and white in post, unless I'm shooting film, obviously, if I commit to film. Here's the thing about film. If you're shooting a black and white negative, you're exposing for the shadow, processing for the highlight. If I shoot color and I'm shooting transparency, I'm shooting for the highlight. So you can't just go into the field with a mixed bag of films and have your brain set on the same setting. You have to flip between exposures for black and white and exposures for color. If you're shooting color neg, yes, you can get away with it doing it the same. So I typically, the last time I shot color film and black and white film together was 2012 in Panama. And I enjoyed it. 2 Leicas, 2 lenses, half color, half black and white. And I did a whole project of snapshots. I was there with another photographer who, by the way, learned every single thing he knows in life from me. But I went with him and I was just there to look around. And I didn't want to burden myself, and I didn't have time to do an official project. So I just thought, I'm going to do both. But it's rare that I do that. And in terms of looking for shots or waiting for them, I do both. I'm constantly hunting when I'm on a project, but then sometimes you have to wait for them to come to you, and then you also have to be a reactionary, which is you take what you can get. All right, I think we're gonna cap it there. I'm almost out of breath. My mouth is dry. I'm out of mate. The dog is barking. There's a gas truck over there. The sun's in my eyes. My hair's messed up. But I just want you to know I went above and beyond. And all joking aside, these were great questions. And I only had like 11 left, but great questions, and I will try to get to the rest of these on another installment. I love answering questions. I not only love the questions, but I have a lot of really weird data stuck away in my head that I think is actually helpful for some of you. So keep them coming.